All right, cool. So yeah, Wayne's got a moving average breakout system here. All right, so we have two SMAs here, a 20 and a 50. We need to identify when price is trading between the 20 and 50 SMA, and then when a candle, when a bar basically breaks out of the 20 and 50 SMA, zones there, or whenever basically price crosses out of the 20 or 50 SMA, then we want to generate a signal depending on whether price is above the 200 or below the 200 SMA. First thing you kind of want to do, right, when you're building your system as BloodHound, is to find a working, to find some kind, find an area on your chart, to work with, where you expect to see some signals. So here, for example, right, so that meets the condition where we have a bar, right, that is in between the two moving averages, and so we're looking for price to cross one of those moving averages, and then we also have a bunch. A bunch right there. So same situation, and let's see. So we should get a short there, and we'll at least get a short there. Maybe on this bar, it's hard to tell if price is above the 50 SMA, but at least we'll get a signal by this bar. And again, these are short signals because price is below the 200 SMA. All right, so we have a location on our chart here, a little working area that we can begin with. All right, so let's get BloodHound open for today's questions. And so first thing we want to do here with BloodHound is put a file name in here, so all your work starts getting saved to a file. So let me hit the change button. Put today's date in there. All right, so we have a file name. Next, I'm going to go to the Logic Template or Logic tab and start a new Logic template here. Let's see, what should we call this? So we have some kind of a SMA 2050 breakout, and we're using an SMA 200 kind of trend filter. So I always like to start with some of the simpler conditions here. So let's just look for whether price is above or below the SMA 200, right? The overall trend or signal direction, trend / signal direction kind of filter there. All right, so let's go to, we're going to use an indicator comparison. So we're going to compare price to the SMA 200. All right, so let's give this a name here. All right, so our first input A, that's going to be price. I guess just in case, we'll use the bar high and the bar low. So for a short trend, we want to make sure that the bar high is below our SMA 200. That tells us that the entire bar is below the SMA 200, right? As opposed to using the closing price, right? If we use the closing price, then it's, theoretically possible that, part of the bar could be above the SMA 200 and still generate a short signal. So we'll make sure that the entire bar is below the SMA 200. So I'll take the conservative approach here. All right, so let's see here. So for a short, we're looking at the high price. And so for a long situation, it would be the opposite. So that would be the low price. All right, in input B, our second would be the SMA 200. So let's just change this from a 14 period to a 200 period. And there we go. Let's scroll back here a little bit. There. All right, so we can see that, you know, if the bar is touching our SMA 200, then there is no trend direction, right? Yeah, so there we go. So as long as the whole bar is above our SMA, then we're in a long situation. And if the entire bar is below the SMA, we're in a short trend. And if the bar is touching, then there's no trend direction. All right, so the easy one is out of the way. And so the next part is we need to identify when price is trading between, right, our 20 and 50 SMA, right, our two medium speed SMAs there. And so that will be a combination of things here. Let's see. Yeah, that's going to take a combination of a bunch of comparison solvers. So let's identify these two situations here where the 20 is below the 50. All right, so in all of these comparison solvers, input A is going to be price, and then input B, that'll be our SMA indicator. Yeah, I'm just kind of thinking this through here. There's a lot of, I think this is going to take a lot of comparison solvers to do this, because we also have to think about, let's see here. Yeah, so we also have to think about this situation where the SMA 20 is above the SMA 50. There. And let's see. Also, another caveat about this condition here is that this condition it's non-directional. So this is just saying the bar is in between two moving averages. But that is not actually telling you like the trend direction, right? So that situation, and then back here, right back here, right where we have a bar in between the two moving averages, that has no trend direction built into it. So we want an output of both long and short at the same time. Right, so this non-directional condition needs to have a long and a short output at the same time whenever a bar, right, is in between the two moving averages there. So let's see. Let's see. All right. So, I guess the approach I'm going to take is I'm going to analyze the low price of the bar for one of these comparison solvers, and then I'll have another comparison solver that's going to analyze the high price of the bar. Let's see here. All right. So, there. Oh, and let's see, so input B here. We need to remember I need to change that to the 20 period SMA. Right. So I guess instead of saying price, let's adjust the name here. So this is actually comparing the low to the SMA 20 here. So what I've identified is, right, whenever the low of the bar is above the SMA 20, right, we're getting a long and a short output. And so now I can grab another comparison solver like so. I'll compare the high price to the SMA 50. So again, input A, that's going to be price. And then for both a long and a short, I'm going to be comparing the high price to the SMA 50. There. And so this time, I want to make sure that the high price of the bar is below the SMA 50. So my outputs, I want this. I want A to be less than B. Like so. Right? So here we go. So whenever the high of the bar is below the SMA 50, I'm getting a long and short output. And so now, with an AND node, when I combine these two conditions together, there we go. I've identified, right, all the bars in between the two moving averages. All right, so now this is when the 20 is below the 50. So if we go back here, yeah, 20 is below the 50. But here, when the 20 is above the 50, well, that condition has not been built yet. All right, so for this AND node here, let's just say this is when the SMA 20 is less than the 50. All right. Okay, so basically I need the same setup, but with the conditions kind of reversed now, because now when we're looking at the low price, right here, the low price is now above the 50, right? So it's kind of reversed, right? So previously we were looking for the low price to be above the 20, but now we're looking for the low price to be above the 50 here. And actually, let's rename these here. Yeah, I'll make these names a little more precise here. There. All right. So I need these same conditions here, but instead of the low being above the 20, we want the low price above the 50. So what I'm going to do, take a little shortcut here, is I can grab these solvers and make a copy of them. There we go. So I made some copies here. And so now I can go and adjust, modify the copies. So I'm going to change the name. So now we're looking for the low to be above the 50, right? As we see here on my chart, if the bar is in the middle, in between the 20 and the 50, then the low price is above the 50. Right? So I just simply need to take the SMA 20 and put in the 50 period. There we go. So now that's the low above the 50. And for the high price is below the 20 period. All right, there's the 20 period. There. Okay, so there's my two new solvers just made. So let's switch back over to the logic board here. And we can go to solver nodes, existing nodes, and then there's the two new solvers that I just made here. So I'll put those on the board. Again, go to existing nodes, put the other one on the board. There we go. I need another AND node. And there we go. Voila. So actually we have two bars. There we go. So we have 2 bars in between the 20 and the 50 there. So now the next step is to combine, both of these scenarios together as if they're, one kind of grander condition. And to do that, we're going to use an OR node. Right? So this is where the 50 is above the 20. And if I connect the other one in here, now we also have if the 20 is above the 50. So there is both situations where the bars, the whole bar is in between. Yeah, the whole bar is in between the 2 moving averages there. All right, and let's see what do we need to do next? Let's see what we need next. All right, yeah. So now we're looking for the candle that breaks out of that crosses out of the 20 or 50 zone. Yeah. All right. So we're gonna need a couple of crossover solvers here, right? So we need an indicator crossover solver. All right, so we're going to look for the closing price to cross over the SMA 20. So again, we'll set input A to price, and I guess this time we'll just use the closing price. And for input B, let's change the SMA to a 20 period. All right, there we have it, right? Whenever that closing price crosses the SMA 20, we're getting all these signals. And so we need one more crossover solver. All right, so this crossover solver will be the closing price crossing over the SMA 50. All right, so again, input A is going to be price, the closing price. Input B, that will be the SMA 50. Now, so these rules here say, whenever the candle, breaks out of the 20, or, well, it says 20 and, but it's really breaks out of the 20 or the 50 zone. Well, yeah, I guess when you call it zone. So, yeah, so we don't know, right, which way it's going to cross out. So really, this crossover condition, we need to be able to see the price crossing the 20 and the 50 at the same time, right? So here we go. So this is, whenever price crosses either the 50 or the 20. All right, so that's another condition. We kind of have we have the SMA 200 trend. So, so we're ready to assemble all the pieces. All right, we have to kind of look at the logical order of things here. So we're clearly going to get, we're looking for the bars to be, right, the first setup condition is for price, looking for price, in between the 2 moving averages. That's what we're looking for first, right? So that's these guys here. So I'm going to move things around a little bit. So I'll put these guys up top. And then what's next is the crossover condition, right? Price crossing out of the 20 or above the 50, right? And so this is the crossover conditions, this group here, and then the trend condition. Let's see. Yeah, I just thought of something else here. So these crossover conditions are also non-directional. Yeah, so if we look at this situation here, right? Price, or yeah, the closing price crossed above the 50, but remember the bars are below the SMA 200. So we're only looking for, so when price crosses above, it should be generating a short signal. So when price crosses above, we also need a short output, not just a long output. So actually, I need to go in here and adjust these crossover solvers. So I'm looking here. Let's take a look. Let's take a look at this crossover solver here, right? So this is this is crossing the SMA 20, right? So whenever price crosses it, we need a long and a short output, because the crossover direction is not what we're looking for. It's whether price is above or below the SMA 200. That's determining the signal direction, right? So here we go. So yeah, so this statement right here. So if price is above the SMA 200, so a sell. Sorry. Here we go. Yeah. So a buy if price is above the SMA 200, or a sell if price is below the SMA 200. So it's not the crossover that's determining the signal direction. It's whether price is above or below the SMA. So our crossovers, right, also need to generate a long and a short output. And so the same thing for the SMA 50 here. Yeah, so if we look at the SMA 50, right, I'm only getting a signal in one direction. So if I use crosses against direction, if I set that to 1, so I have crosses in direction and then crosses against direction. And so that gives me a long and a short output. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, so whenever price crosses the SMA 50, I'm getting a long and a short output. So now if I look at my OR node, there we go. Whenever we get that crossover condition, I'm getting a long and a short output. Okay, so there we go. So now that we have this adjusted, now we can continue putting all the pieces together here. And I guess let's label this. There. All right, so let's take a step back and again look at our signals here when price is in between the two moving averages. So we know that we're expecting a short signal on this bar here. And we're also expecting a short signal on this bar here. Right? But we can see that this, when the bars are in the middle of the SMAs, well, that output is not on the actual signal bar. So we need to take these, take this output and shift it forward onto the signal bar. Shift it forward by 1 bar. So what we can simply do is take a look back node, and there we go. We can see it took all the bars in the middle, right, signals, and it shifted them forward 1 bar. So now we actually have an output on the signal bar, right? So this is the signal bar, this is the signal bar, and now we have outputs on those 2 bars. And so we can take an AND node And this look back node is what it's doing is it's displacing the signals forward by 1 bar, right? So this displacement setting set to 1 is what's shifting the signals forward by 1 bar. You know, if I set the displacement to 2, then it shifts everything forward by 2 bars, right? So this displacement is NinjaTrader's displacement function. You'll notice, you know, if you look at all indicator settings, there is this displacement function within every indicator, right? So this is a NinjaTrader function that simply shifts the data forward by whatever your displacement number is. So, all right. And the look back is doing nothing here. So a look back period of 1 actually does nothing. So, all right, so we're using the displacement to shift those signals forward. And so I like to name my look back nodes to dis1, so I know what functionality, you know, this look back node is performing. So if I see a dis for displacement 1, then I know it's just, you know, this look back's just shifting the bars forward. So let's connect that into an AND node. And now if we combine the crossover conditions, there we go. So there is our, right, our basically our, you know, bars breaking out of the 20 or 50. But again, right, we have long and a short output. Whenever that occurs, right, there's another breakout. Let's see, those SMA 2050 were a little too skinny. There we go. So here's a couple of breakouts there. And a bunch more. Right, so now we can take our trend filter. So remember, when we're comparing price to the SMA 200, right, this last part of the rules here, the last part of this rules here, you know, determines the direction. So as soon as we connect this into the AND node, now we're left with directional signals. Let's close that. Let's expand that out. And we'll just kind of take a look through it. Yeah, so let's see, we're missing a signal here. Yeah, let's find out, you know, what happened right here. We're missing a signal. All right, so we can see here, right, so I have our look back node here connected up. So we can see, you know, we've already seen that when the bars are in between, right, that's being detected. And we have, oh, look at that. Okay. Yeah, interesting. Okay, so now what's happened here is on this bar, the wick, right, the wick went above the SMA 50. And so this bar was not in between. Yeah. So the crossover occurs on this bar, but this bar was in between. So if I take a look at the look back node, right, our bars in between that condition, the signals end before the crossover occurs. So actually what I'm going to need to do is actually also use a look back. So I will need to look back 2 bars. Yeah. There. All right, so with making a simple little adjustment here, actually we might need to make more adjustments. Yeah, we'll have to kind of take a look at this. yeah, this look back node actually might not be appropriate. But I just want to point out that, right, that the bars in between that condition, I've managed to extend the signal onto the crossover bar, right, where the red arrow is. So now we actually have a signal there. All right, so I'm going to have to kind of scan through the chart and see if there are any other signals missing. So here's an interesting situation. So we have bars. Let's grab there we go. So we have some bars, in between the two moving averages. However, the breakout bar actually is straddling our SMA 200, so no signal there. But that's just that's how the market serves things up, and I'm sure that's the way it's supposed to be. Probably no signal there. Let's see. All right, I'm gonna do a little trick here to help me identify any missing signals a little easier here. So we have this little trick where you can kind of see a secondary condition at the same time that you actually see signals as well. So to do this, it just requires 2 OR nodes. So all right. So if we look at the output here, right, we can see I have this little partial, of an output, a very small output here. And so this small output is whenever there is a bar in between the two moving averages. Right, so what I've done is, right, remember this OR node, zoom out a little bit. So this OR node, right, what's coming out of that OR node is when the bars are in between the moving averages. So here, let's rename that OR node here. Bars in between. We'll just kind of hyphenate that. So yeah, so I've taken the bars in between, put it into an OR node, and this OR node, I've had its output reduced. So that's what these kind of sliders do here, is these sliders can increase and reduce the output amount here. And so I reduce the output amount of this OR node, and then it goes into this OR node with the signals here, right? So there. So that's kind of a way that you can monitor a kind of a setup condition. So now I can scan through, and if I see any of those small outputs without a signal, then I know there's a signal missing. Yeah, or maybe a signal's missing. Let's see. Yeah, well, we actually got one there. Okay. Yeah, we got one there. Well, so far so good. I haven't found any missing signals yet. Ah, here we go. All right, here we go. Oh, actually, no, that's not a missing signal. Yeah, our breakout bar is actually touching the SMA 200. So, okay. False alarm. Here we go. All right, here's what I was looking for. So this is what I figured would happen eventually. Surprisingly took a while, but so we have one bar in between the two moving averages. And then we have a bunch of bars where the wicks are touching the moving average. Right? So we have like 1, 2, 3, well, actually just 1, 2. Yeah, at least two bars touching before the crossover or the breakout, or however you want to say it. But basically this bar is the breakout bar that crosses the SMA 50. So this is the bar that finally crosses over. So we have two bars in between that are touching the SMA 50. So that's our problem. All right. So it is definitely, the market can kind of throw anything at you, right? It can consolidate as much as it wants. And so we could easily get a bunch of bars consolidating on one of the moving averages. And if that happens, then basically, this look back node, it's set up to only look back, an extra bar, to extend. This is only, there we go. Let's move that out of the way there. So this look back node, right, it's only designed to compensate for two bars, that are touching the moving average before the actual breakout bar or the crossover bar. So what I'm going to do instead is I'll make this system a little more robust here. Yeah, so instead of using a look back node, so I'm just going to leave it up there, and instead I'm going to grab a toggle node. And so this toggle node, right, when it receives a signal that there's a bar in the middle, as you can see, the toggle node turns on and it's going to stay on. So we need some way to turn that toggle node off, and we can use basically the crossover condition, right? So when the crossover occurs, right, that's the breakout that we're looking for. So so when that breakout or that crossover occurs, well, that's when we need to turn the toggle node off, and and wait, and therefore the toggle node will wait for the next bar that goes in between the moving averages. So what I can do is I can use these crossover signals or breakout signals, right, to turn the toggle node off. But I need to delay that reset by one bar here. So this look back node, again, what I'm using is basically I'm delaying the crossover signals by one bar so that I don't turn the toggle node off too soon. So in the toggle node, now that the toggle node is using the reset connector, right? So you'll notice the toggle node has an input and a reset connector. So that reset connector uses the reset settings here, the reset options here. And so if we get a signal going into the reset, then we're going to use that signal to turn the toggle node off. And that's not working as expected. Let's see what's going on here. Oh, there. Let's see. Yeah, so I think my inputs, I have on opposite signal. So I think, no, that didn't do it. Oh, I see the problem. Yeah, I see the problem. So, yeah, so using these these crossover signals here. The problem is that when price goes in between the moving averages, well, there's a crossover, right? Price is crossing into, it's crossing into the area that's in between the two moving averages. So, yeah. We connect that up. There we go. So, yeah, so we see I have a crossover signal here, which is turning the toggle node off there. So, oh, actually, let's see. Yeah, I think we can solve that easily enough. I'm just going to grab some more look back nodes here. And it's kind of getting tight working in here, but let's look back. Again, I'm going to use the displacement function and put that into the toggle node. See if that helps. Right? So remember, I'm taking let's see here. Let's take a look at this. There we go. So we have right the cross in bar here. So we get the crossover. This is the crossover solver, and then because we have to use a displacement node to turn the toggle node off, we actually get that crossover right there. Let me connect that in here. Here we go. Right. So we're looking at the crossover signals here, but displaced forward one bar, right? So it's this crossover bar displaced forward, right? So it's being displaced onto the inside bar. So what I've taken is the signal from the inside bar, I have displaced that by one bar. So that's what this is doing. So if we look at that, right? So what we get here is the inside bar, that signal is displaced forward by one bar. So now the toggle node is turning on a little later. So the crossover, right? The crossover signal that comes in, right? It comes in right here, but the toggle node is turned on one bar later. So therefore, the signals coming in shouldn't interfere. The crossover signals coming in shouldn't interfere with the toggle node anymore. So let's verify that. Let's get everything connected up here. And there we go. Great. So we have the one inside bar, and the toggle node gets turned on. And so we have a bunch of bars that are touching the SMA 50, but haven't crossed over yet. And then we get a bar that finally crosses over right there. No. And then the toggle node turns off, right? So once we get a bar crossing over, the toggle node gets turned off. And so that's why, again, that's why there's a look back node, using the displacement function. So from the crossovers, we have a look back node displacing the signals here. So, right, so the toggle node turns off one bar after the crossover due to the look back node displacing. So, all right, so with that, I think that will do it. Let's connect this up now. There we go. All right, so there is our missing signal. All right, so I will finish kind of scanning through here. And I'm pretty certain that we're not going to have any missing signals anymore. And oh, look at that. Actually, I think, yeah, we would have had a bunch of missing signals right here, back here. So same situation where, here, let's kind of zoom in here. A single inside bar. And then we had a bunch of bars touching one of the moving averages before the breakout. Yeah, so it's a good idea that we put in the toggle node. So there we go. Another situation. All right, so far everything's looking good. Yeah, here we go. Here's another situation where it took a couple of bars. So we can see here. Yeah, so we got 3 inside bars, right? And again, I can tell because of my little output here, this small little output that happens before the signal. And then it took, this time it took 1, 2, 3 bars before the breakout bar. Yeah, so we had a bunch of long wicks here. And so we had 3 bars, yeah, touching, and then we finally got the breakout, right? So that toggle node basically, let's see, I don't want to say fixed, but that toggle node, you know, is allowing for, you know, for multiple bars to happen before the breakout. Yeah, here we go again. Some inside bars. Price starts touching the SMA 50, but then actually breaks out by crossing the SMA 20. All right, so we had a bunch of bars. Right, so we had a bunch of bars in between here that were touching the SMAs. Yeah, so there you have it. Let's just go back to the beginning of the chart. All right. Yeah, so Wayne is asking, yeah, so can we only generate a long signal when it breaks out of the top of the zone and a short when it breaks the bottom of the zone? All right. Yeah, let's see. Oh, great. So, yeah, here we go. So we actually have a working condition here. Yeah, let me clean up my drawing tools here. Yeah, so in this case, shoot, no, I don't. Yeah, so in this case, yeah, we'd only want to see a short signal if it breaks the SMA 20 because the 20 is below. And I was hoping to have a situation where price might cross the SMA 50 if the SMA 50 is below. All right, well, let me see if we can find some situations like that. All right. Yeah, here we go. Here's a good situation. So I have both cases where the 20 is below the 50 and the 50 is below the 20. And yeah, we both want shorts there. So, all right. And I don't have any signals to actually be eliminated. Yeah. All right. Well, we can go back here and yeah. All right. I can use this area here too. So we want to eliminate these signals. There we go. All right, so let's break open our system here. Yeah, so it's going to be a matter of controlling the crossover signals here, right? It's a matter of, conditioning, putting conditions, limits on the crossover solvers here. Okay, yeah, actually this will be an easy one here. So if we look at what we want to remove, basically, well, I'll try this in any case. So these signals that we want to remove, what do they all have in common? Well, they are cross-ups, right? All of these are cross-ups. And the signal we want to keep, so the one we want to keep is a cross down. Yeah, so my simple solution, man. All right. So we want to focus on basically the crossover signals or the breakout signals here. Yeah, my simple solution was just to eliminate the cross against. And actually, maybe it will work. Come on. There. Oh, actually, yeah, it looks like it will work. Because if we, you know, when we look at this now, right, where all the signals that we want to get rid of, they're all long, right? They're all long, right? Because it's a cross up. But of course, you know, what we're expecting is short signals because price is below our SMA 200. So actually, I think that works. Take a quick look. Yeah, all right. It is working. However, our toggle node, our toggle node needs to be adjusted here. Yeah, so we can see that here. Let's zoom in here. Gonna zoom in here. Right. So we have some bars in between. Oh, actually, yeah, this would be an easy fix. So on the toggle node, the reset, I can use opposite signals to turn the toggle node off. There we go. All right, yeah, that was a simple solution. Yeah, so the problem that we had, right, was, we had, a couple of inside bars, and then when they would cross up, the cross up was not turning the toggle node off. And so, when price crossed down, that was turning the toggle node off, but the cross up was not turning the toggle node off. And so with the toggle node, on the reset, I basically, just took the on signal and the on opposite signal. So basically on any kind of signal coming into the reset is going to force the toggle node off, right? So previously, on opposite signal was set to no action, right? So we can see that when we got a cross up, the toggle node was still on until we got a cross down. And then we got that false signal there on that cross down, right? So we can see the toggle node is basically left on. Well, actually, what's happening here is the wrong object. There we go. So what's happening is the long output of the toggle node is getting turned off, right? So we can see the long output is turned off on the toggle node, but the short output is not being turned off, right? And that's because, remember, our crossover signals, before, our crossover signals were giving us long and short at the same time, right? So that long and short was turning off the long and short of the toggle node. But now that we made this recent adjustment, right, the crossovers are only giving us a long or a short, one or the other, not both. So just taking the toggle node and using both on signal and on opposite signal to turn the toggle node off like this fixes the problem with the toggle node. Yeah, so there we go. There. All right. So let's look through this and make sure there's no problems here, no mistakes. So there we go. All the cross up signals have been eliminated now. And let's take a look back here. So there we go. The cross down, cross down, cross down. And let's see. Yeah, we didn't have any cross up signals here. That's right. We only had cross downs. Yeah, here we go. So I can see by my little output here, right? I have this little output here. So we do have a inside bar or a in-between bar, and then we did get a cross down and no signal. So there we go. It looks like everything's working good. Let's see. Yeah, this is next to the SMA 200. Oh, here we go. So we have a bar that's in between, and then we get a cross down and no signal. All right. So I think we got that one accomplished. Yeah, and again, yeah, there should have been there were previously, right, some signals when price crossed up, and those are gone now. Okay, so again, just to kind of recap here, the adjustments that were made is on the crossover solvers, I turned off the crosses against direction output. So remember, I set those back to 0. So I set those back to 0. And then the toggle node, I took the on opposite signal and set that to force off for the reset there. So, all right. So that was one of Wayne's follow-up questions. Get rid of that. And here's the next one. Okay. So Wayne wants to wait for the entire bar to have crossed over the moving average. Yeah, so instead of a partial bar, he wants the signal to only fire off when the whole bar, the entire bar, has crossed the moving average. So yeah, we can do that too. We will need to add some more to this. All right, first, let me find a spot on the chart here where that actually happens. All right, so there's one. All right, there's another spot. Okay, I think that should be good enough. Just having two spots should be enough to work with. Although, let me just check real quick to see if we have any longs here. Oh, good. Okay, so not too far behind. We have a couple of longs here. Yes, this looks like this would be the signal bar. Yeah, same there. All right. Let's see. I'll move back here. Yeah, I'll start working right here. Let's see. I think, yeah, this is going to be. Oh no, actually, yeah, actually, I think this will be fairly simple to do. Yeah. All right. I think this will work here. Yeah, I was just trying to think that there was, an easier, a shorter way or less solvers to do this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this, these crossover solvers here and just kind of set them off to the side. And I'll disconnect them from the system. And And what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a new set of crossover solvers. So if you kind of zoom in and take a close look at, well, so what does it mean when we need the entire bar, to cross over one of the moving averages? Well, if it's in a short trend, right? So in a short signal situation, it would be the high of the bar, right? So if the high of the bar has crossed the moving average, right, then we know the entire bar is below the moving average by comparing the high of the bar to the moving average. And so, of course, vice versa for a long situation. Let's see here. Yeah, for a long situation, again, we'd be looking at the low of the bar. So we know that if the low of the bar is above the moving average, then we know the entire bar is above it. All right. Yeah, we're going to need some additional logic here as well, but I'll get into that, further on down the road here. All right. So for now, let's just start building here. So, all right. So I'm going to go to the Solvers tab, take a little shortcut here, right? And I already have two crossover solvers, so I will need a set crossover solvers here. So I'm going to need one set that's going to look at the low price of the bar. So I'll set both those prices to low. There we go. All right, and then I'm going to need another set looking at the high price. There. All right, so from the previous rules, we have a set that looks at the closing price of the bar, and now we have a set that looks at the low price and a set that looks at the high price. Okay. And again, we have to look at whether price is crossing the SMA 20 or the 50 because, right, we don't know which SMA is going to be, below the other. So, this could happen with where the 50 is below the 20 and, we get price crossing down, right? So that's why we need crossover solvers looking at both the 20 and the 50 to cover both situations. All right, so let's put all of those solvers on the board here. So we'll go to existing nodes and just drop them on the board one at a time. And I grabbed a bar direction by accident. Let me just delete that out of the system. There we go. All right, so I don't think this is going to work, but I'm just going to see what results I get here. I'm just going to connect them all into an OR node. Okay, yeah, so I do need a filtering mechanism here. So here's the, right, so we have a short output, on the bar that we know is going to generate the signal here, right, marked with the red arrow. However, we also have a short output here. So when the low is crossing, we're also getting a short signal So yeah, so we need to remove the crossover signals when the low price crosses, right, that moving average. And yeah, so when the SMA 20 is below the SMA 50, yeah, then we know that we only want to look at the high price. So let's see. So I'm going to need to kind of combine these solvers, yeah, with some other logic here. Yeah, so for example, remember this is the, okay, yeah, this will work. All right, so this is the low price crossovers, and this is the high price crossovers. Yeah, so if the bars are below the SMA 50, we're only interested in the high price cross downs. So, well, I thought I had it, but all right, here we go. I think I got a solution. So I know I'm going to need some AND nodes. So basically the AND nodes are going to control, which of, the AND nodes, combined with another solver is going to determine whether, the low price crossover signals get through or whether using the high price signals get through. And I think I'm going to need some more room, so let's move that way down. There we go. There. All right, and so I'm going to need something. I'm going to need a solver that's telling me whether the SMA 50 is above or whether the SMA 20 is above. Let's see. So to do that, I'm going to use a comparison solver here. Well, now I'm kind of wondering to myself if I'm overthinking this. Yeah, this is turning into a pretty good puzzle here. So just to keep you guys in line with kind of my train of thought here, I had two avenues that I could approach, this new requirement. One way, which I thought was going to be a little more complicated, was, I could take the original signals, right? I could take the signals that just looks at the closing price crossing out and then extend that forward and wait until the entire bar crosses out. But I thought it was going to be simpler, if we just looked at the high and low of the bar. But, as I'm building this out, I can see that, wow, this is really getting a lot more complicated. If I take the original signals, let's hook that in here. All right, so here's the original signals, right? When just the closing price crosses out of the two moving averages. Yeah, so I could take this and extend it by a couple of bars, right? Waiting for the entire bar. But I think what's going to get really complicated is building the logic that turns the toggle node off. Because remember, this toggle node needs to get turned off, at some point. And so the problem could be that, let's say we get the closing price, crosses out, but there's never an entire bar that crosses down, right? And price could just kind of reverse and go back up like this, right? So we could end up with, right? So we could get the closing price crossing, and we could use this signal to turn the toggle node, another toggle node on, and wait for the entire bar. But what if the entire bar does not cross over? So we would need a detection, a set of detection logic here to turn that toggle node off at some point. So so I guess either way I approach this, either my current route or this alternate route, I guess either way I think the logic is going to get more complicated. All right, so I think looking at the bar price, so again in this particular situation right here, looking at the high price I think is a safer way to build this logic. So I'm just gonna continue on here. Oh, look at that. Actually, the signal is going to be on this bar. There. All right. So I will continue on, with this route here. All right. So what I was doing is I was trying to create some kind of control mechanism so that if we're looking for so if price is below the SMA 200, right, we're looking for short signals, and so we want to know when the high of the bar crosses the moving average. So we're only interested in the high price. So that would be, right, this group of crossover solvers down here set to the high price. Right, let's zoom in here a little bit. There. Right. So when we're generating long signals, we're using the low of the bar. So that's going to be this logic up here. Right. And so actually I think this, let me try another route here. It's pretty rare that I ever get to use the if-then node. However, I think this is a case where I should be using the if-then node. Yeah. So I'm just going to hook this up and see if this actually works. Yeah, not quite. All right, wasn't quite going to be as easy as I thought, but well, we'll get this to work here. So I thought I could just use the price compared to the SMA 200 to control the if-then logic gates here, but I'm going to need something a little more complex here. Let's see. Actually, I do need something similar to that, comparing price to the SMA 200. However, I need one that's a little more specific. So I just need to know when price is above. Let's see here. All right. So actually, I just need to know when the low price is above. Yeah, this will still work. All right. So I need to know when the low price is above the SMA 200. And that tells me I should be looking for, right? So if the low price is above the SMA 200, then I'm looking for long signals only. And just hold that thought here. Let me finish setting this up. There we go. All right. And so here, let's actually take a look at this solver here. So this will make sense once you actually see what this comparison solver is going to do. All right. There. All right. So if the bar is above the SMA 200, then we're getting along in a short output at the same time. So so everything's on, or if price is below the SMA 200, then everything is off, right? So either on, so this solver is on when we're looking for long signals, and it is off when we're looking for short signals. And so that would be the appropriate control for the if-then node here. And looking, so just kind of scanning through here. And it looks like everything's working. So let's kind of zoom in here. So here we go. So we can see now what we're seeing are the crossover signals of the low price. I'm sorry, of the high. Let's see, is the high price. Yeah, sorry. Here. Let's add a little extra name to these OR nodes here. Right. So we want to use the low price when we're looking for longs, and we want to use the high price when we're looking for shorts. And so you might be saying, well, but there's long and short signals here. And and obviously that's correct. So when the high price crosses above the SMA, right, obviously we're going to get a long signal. And then if the high price crosses down below the SMA 20, we're going to get a short signal. And of course, remember, this guy here ultimately filters everything out. So, right. So when we're comparing price to the SMA 200, that is our ultimate trend filter. Right. So with all these short outputs, so we don't have to worry about if the high price crosses above and generates a long signal, because that long gets filtered out ultimately by this solver here at the end of the system. What's more important is whether or not the toggle node is getting turned on and off appropriately. So logic is starting to get a little large here. Oh, man. All right, so what I'm going to do is connect this in to the toggle node and connect this into the AND node. And let's see if this works. Fingers crossed. All right, but no problem. If it doesn't work, we'll figure out what else needs to be done here. And look at that. So far, so good. Yeah, so I marked this bar already, so we know that's correct. And I marked that bar, and yep, that bar would be correct. Actually, let me make a little adjustment here. So I actually want to look. I want to look at this ortho because I want to see both the in-between bars and the signal bars to make sure we're not missing any signals here possibly. Yeah, and so actually, yeah, this is kind of showing me being able to see, you know, when the bars are in between here. Yeah, this is helping me, you know, debug the system here because, yeah, it's identifying, it's identifying when I have these bars in the middle, and then I can take a look and I go, okay, yeah, price crossed down, and so we don't want to see those anymore. We only want to see when price crosses above the upper moving average. Yeah, so still everything is working good, looking good. Yeah, so price is below the SMA 200 now. So we're looking for shorts of crossing the lower moving average. And so we don't have anything crossing the lower moving average. And there we go. There's one. Yeah. Oh, good. And here's an example of price crossing below the SMA 50 and generating a short signal, right? Because normally the SMA 20 is below when we're seeing these short signals, but this time the SMA 50 is actually below. So we know that, yeah, we're getting signals on both the SMA 20 or crossing the SMA 50. So that was a good verification there. Right, yeah, like over here, this is normally what we're going to see is price crossing the SMA 20. That's going to be very typical. Yeah, crossing the 50 is not quite so typical, understandably. So, okay, here we go. So we should generate a signal. Let's see, on that bar, I believe. Yes. All right, so we found a missing signal, so let's figure out what happened. And most likely what happened is our toggle node was turned off too soon. Yes. All right, yeah, the toggle node's getting turned off too soon. All right, so I'm just kind of analyzing what I'm seeing here. Okay. Yeah, so I think I understand what's going on here. All right. So we know that, you know, with the if-then node, only the crossover signals using the high price is getting through. And what's happening is every once in a while, oh, come on. There we go. Every once in a while, we get the high price, right, crossing above the 50 and then down below the 50. And so we get a short signal here. And so this short signal is turning off the toggle node. Let's see, actually, let's see. Yeah, both the long signals and the short signals. Yeah, so basically whenever the high price is crossing that SMA 50, it's turning off the toggle node. So these long signals and short signals are turning the toggle node off too soon. Yeah, so we need to do some further controlling of which SMA crossovers are being looked at. And so, yeah, we can do this by using some more if-then nodes. So I think this system has probably used the most if-then nodes that I've ever used in a workshop before. All right, so I've just kind of preliminarily have these if nodes connected up. So now I need, some kind of controlling solver here. Yeah, so remember I built this solver previously, right? That looks at whether it basically kind of looks at whether the bars are above or below, right, our 200 moving average, determining whether we're looking for long signals or short signals. So now I need another comparison solver that tells me, is the 20 above or below the 50? So that way, so if the 20 is below the 50, then I know that I only want to look at, if we zoom in here, right, I only want the output from the high crossing the SMA 20, right? And so I'll ignore the SMA 50, right? And so again, I'll make a comparison solver so that if the SMA 20 is below the 50, that we're looking at the signals from the SMA 20. So let's grab, let's see, yeah, I'm going to need a new comparison solver for this. All right, so we have a name. So this solver is specifically looking for the SMA 20 to be below the SMA 50. All right, so let's see. Let's put the. I guess we'll put the. Let's see. I'll put the 50 in first. Yeah, it's not going to matter if I put the SMA 20 in first or put the SMA 50 in first. Oh, I reversed everything by accident. There we go. There. That's what we want. Right? So we want to know when input A is greater than input B. So on the outputs, we're using A is greater than B. Right? We want the A is the SMA 50 and B is the SMA 20. And so we want the SMA 50 to be greater or above, right, the SMA 20. So here we go. So if the 20 is below, then we have an output, right? If the 50 is below, then there's no output. And so this will control the if-then node. And yeah, there we go. So now we only get crossover signals from the SMA 20 if the 20 is below. And here we go. So in this So now over here, the 50 is below. And so now we're seeing the high price crossing the 50 SMA only. Right, so we can see over here when price crosses to 20, those crossovers, right, are being ignored or blocked, right? They're not getting through because the 50 is below. Yeah. All right, so I think this will work here. So I just need to check the other if-then node. All right, let me see here. All right, so yeah, for this other if-then node, I can see, so remember this if-then node is looking at the low price. So let's see here. Yeah, let's name this here. All right, so the if-then node on the top here, this is being used for longs. All right, and the if-then node on the bottom is being used for short signals. So yeah, just a moment, guys. There we go. Turn off my notifications. All right. Yeah, so keeping in mind that the if-then node on top is being used for long signals. All right, so when I look at this, well, the 20 is above, but I'm getting crossover signals from the 50, which is below. So that tells me I need to reverse these nodes here. So something like that. There we go. So now when the SMA 20 is above the 50, right, I'm getting crossover signals from the moving average that's above. Yeah, we can even see here. So when the 50 goes above, I'm getting crossover signals from the 50, which is above the 20, right? So basically I'm getting crossover signals from whichever moving average is above the other, right? And again, that's being used for long situations. And then the if-then down here, right, it's being used for shorts. And so whichever moving average is on the bottom, right, we want to see those crossover signals from the moving average that's on the bottom. All right, so there is our basically reworked crossover logic here. So we're using if-then nodes to figure out, do we want to see crossover signals from the SMA 20 or from the 50, right? We only want one or the other. That way, when price is crossing, the other SMA, those crossovers will no longer be turning off the toggle node here. So let's connect that in. Connect that in. And we'll just check the signals actually. So I think this will work. So I'm just gonna check the final output here and see what we have. Let's see. Yeah, so we were getting this short here before, but yeah, we were missing this short here. Yeah, because of the because of these wicks crossing the 50 was basically kind of canceling the toggle node, and so we were missing this short signal. But now it is working. All right. So let me continue looking through here. Here's a good test scenario. So normally for long signals, the SMA 20 is going to be above. So we'll see a bunch of these signals from the SMA 20, but here actually in the middle is an example of the SMA 50 generating a long signal. So we know that the SMA 50 is working as well. Yeah, so these signals look good. Really what I'm looking for are missing signals. So that takes a little bit more time to try and identify any missing signals. Yeah, but so far it looks like all the signals are there. Okay, yeah. So here's another example or two more examples of price crossing the SMA 50 and generating some long signals. So yeah, so that's good to know that that is working correctly. Yeah, and even here is a short where price had crossed the SMA 50 for a short. So cool. All right. Yeah, I think we've got this last part implemented in there. So let's take a look at the logic here. All right, yeah, so this is definitely kind of added on to itself. So all right. Yeah, so we have the crossover solvers down here, basically from the original question as it started off. And then we ultimately ended up with these 4 crossover solvers with a bunch of if-then nodes, to kind of create a more conservative signal here, waiting for the entire bar to cross either the SMA 20 or 50.